Y'all wonder what Halle Berry been up to since her Oscar? Well, she'd been cooped up in the woods making her act in mediocre movies. Come with us as we watch Never Let Go. June wakes up from another nightmare. After reciting their chant, she goes to the porch to check if there are any frogs nearby for her to catch. The evil shows itself in the form of her papa, with the nastiest tongue that I kinda wish he'd use on my taint. June ignores it and goes back inside to check on her sons. She lives in the forest with her twins, Samuel and Nolan, and a cute dog. Food is scarce ever since all immigrants were deported, but they try their best to get by. They tie a rope around their waists and recite their chant before they leave their house. June has told the kids that evil has possessed everyone, and they are the only ones left. This what they tell the Amish. June's mother saw the evil coming, so her husband built her a blessed house in the forest where the evil can't reach them. Then the old man tied a rope to the house's foundation so his wife can leave the house and still be protected, as long as the rope is on her, a practice June and her sons still follow to this day. While they look for food, the evil continues to taunt June, showing up as her papa, but June knows better. They get lucky that day and Samuel catches a squirrel. They take anything they can get their hands on, insects, frogs, and even bugs hiding beneath the bark of a tree. That nasty boy done eat the frog alive. Wanting to bring something home, Nolan tries to get the egg that has dropped from its nest, but it's way out of his reach. He wants to untie the rope to grab the balut, but Samuel stops him. On their way back, Nolan thinks he hears his brother saying that their mother loves him more. Annoyed, Nolan steps on the rope and causes his brother to trip, fall, and break his ankle. He immediately regrets what he did, especially because Samuel's rope broke. Nolan unties his rope to help his brother. He calls for their mother and June immediately comes to their rescue when she hears the whistle. In the form of a big back white woman, the evil smells the boys and starts chasing them. Luckily, June gets to them first and she pulls them to safety. She quickly holds them close and ties the rope around them to protect them from the evil, who appears to her in the image of her mama, sniffing the boys and urging June to let them go. The boys are scared, but they can't see the evil and only their mother can. I kinda see where this is going. If you already know the twist, put it in the comments section. When the evil finally disappears, June takes the boys back home and makes them recite their chant while touching the floor. She even threatens them with a knife, making sure that the evil didn't possess them. When she's sure that it's still them, she scolds Nolan. She reiterates how the rope is their lifeline outside the house, and without it, the evil can possess them with one touch and get inside their home. Then she tends to Samuel's broken ankle. At dinner, the boys are ravenous eating frogs and such because it tastes like fried chicken anyway. June tells the story of how the evil appeared to her before as a young girl asking for help. She ignored it, sure that it was just playing tricks on her. Then she reminds the boys how the evil will play with their minds just to get them to doubt themselves. This the sequel to Gothica? Part of her routine is to lock the boys in the cellar until they find purity in their minds. Nolan would go in first, then it's Samuel. That night, Nolan realizes that nothing bad happened when they let go of the rope. Still, he wonders if their mother would kill them too if the evil got to them. Samuel explains that the evil got to their grandparents and their father, which was why their mother had to kill them. While on the porch, the evil shows itself to June as her husband. He tries to convince her to give him the kids since they will only starve to death anyway. But June ignores him and goes back inside. The next day, Nolan keeps asking questions, starting with the snake tattoo on June's back. Her stories never quite fit the timeline, so Nolan begins to doubt her. The boy thinks there are other people out there, but June insists that only their family survived. A day goes by, one after the other, and they continue to consume their stored food supply. They slowly begin to starve, but somehow still find joy when they play their favorite song, Crank That Soldier Boy. That night, June finds Nolan sleepwalking again, so she takes him back to bed and puts the bell on his ankle. When she goes out searching for food, she finds a crow eating Nolan's face. She realizes it's just the evil playing tricks on her again. They have survived the winter year after year, but this one is so bad that it depleted their food stock. One day, Nolan finds himself alone. The evil pulls him to the well, but it was just a dream. He wakes up outside their house with the bell still attached to his ankle. June takes him back to the house and makes him touch the wood and recite their chant. Then she forces him into the cellar and refuses to open it, even though Nolan says he needs to pee. When June finally opens it, Nolan has already wet himself. Nolan is convinced that something is wrong with his mother. He believes there is a world out there, despite June telling him that they are the only ones left alive. He tells Samuel they should run away and escape, and they can return later to get their mother. However, Samuel strongly opposes the idea, insisting that their mother knows what's best for them. June is quietly listening to the conversation and finally realizes that Nolan is starting to doubt her, reminding her of her past. The next day, she takes out the camera and shows the boys how to use it. She shows them two photos, one of her younger self and the other of her with the two boys. She explains to them that the photos can also show emotions and that one day they will also use the camera. June tells the boys they have to kill Coda if they want to survive, and they can salt his meat so it will last longer. Nolan is appalled by the suggestion since they're not in Ohio, and there's no way he will let his dog be killed. He refuses to let his mother take Coda because he treats him as his family. But June explains that Coda is already old and doesn't have many years left. She suggests they make a vote, but Nolan knows that Samuel will agree to killing the dog if it pleases their mother. When Nolan walks out, Samuel volunteers to talk to him, but June says she will handle it herself. Nolan sits on the porch, hugging Coda tightly so no one can get him. However, when June shows up holding a crossbow, Nolan can't do anything to stop his mother from taking Coda. Without a rope tied around his waist, he's stuck on the porch, begging her to stop. June takes Coda to the greenhouse and tells him he's been a good boy. She cries and thanks him for protecting the family for years before aiming the crossbow at his head. The dog stays still, and June can't get herself to pull the trigger. Suddenly, Nolan appears behind her, holding a machete and without a rope on him. Before June can get to him, Nolan cuts off the rope and Coda dashes off into the woods. Then, Nolan locks his mother inside, telling her that the evil isn't real. Yeah, good boy, Nolan. June then reveals that she brought the evil into the house and it would make her kill her kids one day. Samuel attacks his brother to rescue his mom, but Nolan stops him from helping her. The evil appears before June in the image of her big mama. She taunts June for poisoning her own mother and says it would make her kill Nolan and Samuel too. So June grabs a shard of glass and slits off her own throat to prevent the evil from possessing her. By the time Samuel unlocks the door, June is already dead. He ties her rope on him, holds her hand, and recites the chant, hoping she'll wake up. Nolan is shocked when he sees his mother's dead body. Scared that the evil might be real, he ties the rope around him again. They can just eat they mama now. That night, Nolan sleeps alone in his room, and Samuel sleeps beside June's dead body. A few days passed, and Samuel has stopped eating. Nolan can only make tea for him before he realizes he has to go look for food. Coda has run away, so Nolan is left alone hunting for animals. Each time, he stretches the rope so he can go farther and farther away from their house. One day he reaches a road but has no idea what it is because it's the first time he's made it that far. He calls out for help, but when no one answers, he returns home. Then a man shows up saying he's a hiker and that he heard someone asking for help. It's the first time Nolan has seen a white person, so he's quite confused if it's the evil or not. He's not in a police uniform, so he might be decent. He tells the hiker his mother died and that his brother is sick and hungry. The man offers him food, but before he can get any closer, Samuel appears on the porch holding a crossbow. The hiker gets scared and says he will just walk away from them. So Nolan stops his brother and convinces him to let the man leave unharmed. But Samuel thinks that it's the evil trying to play tricks on them, so he shoots him. Nolan follows the traces of blood and finds the hiker bleeding to death with a phone in his hand. The hiker has managed to dial 911, but can't say anything because he's already choking on his own blood. Then Nolan grabs the bag from the man and runs back to the house. He takes out the food and starts to eat, even offering some to Samuel. But Samuel is mad at him for what happened to their mother, and he doesn't mind dying because it means they could see her again. Later that night, Samuel, being a sneaky little fatty, and eats the food while his brother sleeps. He finds the hiker's wallet with a photo of his daughter inside. When he hears a noise outside, he takes the hiker's flashlight to check the greenhouse. A young girl walks to him, saying she's looking for her father because he told her to wait by the car and hasn't returned. Samuel notices the girl from the photo, so he lies about the hiker's demise. However, when the girl notices that the flashlight belongs to her father, she gets scared and runs away. Samuel runs after her, apologizing and saying he didn't mean to kill the hiker. The girl keeps running deeper into the woods, and Samuel decides to untie the rope so he can chase her. Then he starts to feel something watching him. He sees the evil in the form of a girl climbing a tree before it attacks and possesses him too. When Nolan looks for his brother, Samuel appears and cuts off his rope. Realizing that the evil is out there, Nolan runs back to the house and finds Samuel in their mother's bedroom. He sees darkness over Samuel's head, but he still tries to reach him. Suddenly, Samuel attacks him with the machete, so Nolan runs and locks himself in the bathroom. Samuel blocks the door with the bed and plays their favorite song, Act Up by City Girls,
Real ass bitch, give a fuck about a nigga.
Before setting the house on fire. Nolan gets out through the window, but gets back inside when he realizes he's stuck. Samuel watches the house burn down with a satisfied look on his face. Then he takes the camera and snaps a picture of him with the burning house. The evil shows itself to Nolan in the image of his mother. He refuses to come close, knowing very well what it did to Samuel. When the evil follows him to his room, Nolan slams it into the cellar and locks it with him. The evil tries to break free, but Nolan holds it tightly. He remembers his mother opening the door and teaching him how to make the darkness go away. Then, the evil shows its true form, a snake, hugging Nolan back as the boy confesses his love to his mother before it vanishes into thin air. The fire catches the attention of the authorities, and they find Nolan still alive in the cellar. Unfortunately, they forgot to take Coda. They put Nolan on the plane, and he is relieved when he finds out that Samuel is with him. But Samuel is acting differently. The photo he took shows the evil touching his shoulder. Then he whispers one last time that his mother loves him more than Nolan. And that's the end of the movie. A little bit of a cliffhanger, but my interpretation is that Halle Berry was schizophrenic, and unfortunately this can be passed down generations, and her own kids became crazy due to their predisposition and their environment. The biggest indicator is the end where there's a civilization past the forest. I honestly think the boys are probably going to end up in juvie with having killed an innocent white man. What did you guys think of this one? Did you guys predict it as fast as I did?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.